Meeting to order. So this is October 1st, 2018, meeting of the Addison Central School District Board. And if we could, let's begin with a round of introductions for our TV audience and our audience here. Steve, would you begin, please?
Steve Warzak.
Tori Jacobite.
Jen Newseeder.
Peg Martin.
Lorraine Morse.
Peter Conlon.
Peter Burrows, Superintendent.
Harry Cullinane.
Davina Damering.
Victoria Jetty.
Mary Gill. Terry Hanson.
Vicki Wells, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services.
So we have an agenda tonight. We have a few small bits of stuff that's always on our agenda that we need to get through very quickly and follow it up after that with a presentation here at Weybridge Elementary School. But we need to open the meeting, as we do all meetings, with an opportunity for any public comments. And so I would, since there's some great members of the public here, I would ask if there are any public comments. Yes.
I'm a parent of a student, well, two students at Mary Hogan.
And actually, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself as well.
Oh,
for
Heather
us.
Smith.
Thank you, Heather.
Right. And I'm just wondering when the families are going to be notified of Mrs. Butterfield's departure. Like, we still yet got an email or anything. It's very bizarre. It's been, what, over a week now? It was a week on Friday, so just wondering.
Okay. So, you know, that's not something that, that's sort of a day-to-day thing that we're not necessarily involved with as a board, but I think we'll probably be discussing it later.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I had a, well, it was a question, but I guess it's public comment period.
Also, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
My name is Julie Barry. I have two kids here at the school. Thanks for the reminder. And my question was about something that's come up a couple times and I've asked about before, which is in the broader picture of our school district as a unified district, the idea of shifting our school zone boundaries to not necessarily be strictly aligned with our town zone boundaries. I'm thinking about that with respect to concerns I hear about overcrowding in Mary Hogan and spaces available in other schools. And I'd love to hear at some point if there's any movement towards thinking more broadly about doing that, because it just seems like such an obvious win-win to me.
So I can assure you that that topic is on our agenda. Whether we, what's that?
Tonight or
No.
In the context of this, it might.
Yes, so where it really falls into is within the context of two areas that the board works, and that is our facilities master plan.
Right.
Because as we sort of talk about a broader vision of our facilities and how best to utilize them, the idea of town boundaries is certainly part of that. And then it would require a policy, and so that would be also taken up in our policy committee. But rest assured, it is a topic that this is not the first we're hearing of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So as that is going to come up, I presume, on future agendas?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. It'll certainly come up within the, I suspect, within the context as we go to the public when we discuss our facilities master plan. We have a couple of public forums to go along with that, which is really to get input from people about sort of the challenges we face and some solutions that might be out there. Yeah, so that's a non-specific, but it's definitely part of any conversation as we talk about the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, well, we have 3 students. I think we'll push our minutes and our bills to a little bit later down. And one of the great benefits that we have of this board is that we get to go every month to a different school. And at every school we get to get a sort of a sense of at least a little bit of what's going on and who the kids are. And tonight we are fortunate to be here in Weybridge.
Okay, well, I'd like to welcome you to a special broadcast of the Weybridge News, hosted by Rachel Naj Benson, Lon Stillman-Utterback, and Zachary Mason, the anchorman. Take it away, Rachel.
Oh, Lud, excuse me.
Hello and welcome, ACSD Board. You are watching Weybridge News. Today we are at Weybridge Elementary School and we'll talk about some unique and special things at our school. Rachel? Thank you. Welcome to our school. Waybridge Elementary School is a semi-rural school located 3 miles northwest of Middlebury in Vermont's Champlain Valley. One of the 7 elementary schools in Addison Central School District, our school is central to community life in Waybridge, a tiny agricultural and residential town, home also to Monument Farms Dairy and the University of Vermont Morgan Horse Farm. Zach?
Thank you. Waybridge has a long and strong tradition of multi-age classrooms. This year, our 4 classrooms include combined grades: kindergarten, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. The current student population for Waybridge is 55 students. After graduating Waybridge Elementary School, students attend Middlebury Union Middle School for grades 7 and 8, and Middlebury Union High School grades 9 through 12. Rachel? Oh, wait, sorry. This year we have 13 new staff members, including Elizabeth Burrows, the school counselor, Otto Fillion, the kindergarten teacher, Mel Copeland, the 1 and 2 teacher, Willa Otto, the 5-6 assistant, Carissa Peltier, the 3-4 assistant, Ava McDonough, the school nurse, Becca White, the student teacher, Linda Smith, the library assistant and director of after-school program, Cole Bossman, the custodian, and Kirsten Hendy, the administrative and health assistants. Rachel?
We will be talking about our days at Waybridge School. One of the things we have been doing for the past 4 years is hosting a Middlebury College Education Studies class led by Tracy Weston with the help of Ms. Canavan and Ms. Wadsworth. Zachary?
At Waybridge, we have 9 half-hour recesses a week. There are many choices. We have Legos in the Library, which is on Thursdays and all rainy days. And we have on Fridays Makerspace, where kids come to put things together and take things apart. Lila?
Outside, on our beautiful playground, we play tag games, swing and climb on things, and build structures, including forts. And just behind that, we have a gloriously muddy stream where we get to play. Rachel? An important part of recess is that all grades, K through 6, participate in recess and play meaningfully together. After our morning recess, we have an amazing lunch prepared by Lisa Knickerbocker. Our lunch is delicious, colorful, and nutritious. The 5-6 class help the kindergartners get their lunch as buddies. Most of our lunches are eaten in our classrooms with teachers or support staff. No? Our 6th graders have an opportunity to do an amazing program called Vermont Junior Iron Chef, where they cook at school with the help of our wonderful cook, Lisa Knickerbocker, and later compete with their star dish at the statewide competition in March. Last year's team made lasagna soup, which they also prepared for our lunch at school. It was delicious. Zach?
Our school, in addition to its regular music program for all students taught by Sarah Metcalf, has an optional chorus program for 4th through 6th grade students and band for 5th and 6th grade students that we meet every day on Wednesday to make music together. When we perform, we sing and play for our school. 6th graders also have an opportunity to prepare and audition for districts. In addition, our band and chorus combine with Ripton, Salisbury, and Cornwall for concerts and with all ACSD schools for Spring of the Arts. Rachel?
We have the lovely opportunity to do art with Sarah Flynn. We study artists and create beautiful work. This year, all 4th through 6th graders have sketchbooks that they can use throughout the year.
Engineering of the Month, EOM, is an amazing thing we have been doing for 5 years. Our first EOM project was to build the bridge using popsicle sticks and glue that could hold at least 5 pounds. With EOM, we have an opportunity to brainstorm, build, and think about our world. We work in cross-grade level teams, K through 6. Last year, we did a project to design and build a new playground structure with the help of Mike Newkirk and lots of volunteers.
Lila? We do independent learning projects, ILPs, every year in 5th and 6th grade. We research topics of our choice using digital resources and books. We also interview mentors who are experts on the topics we have chosen. When we have finished our research, we write a paper and prepare a slideshow that we share with the K-4 students. 6th graders present their slideshow and research with the community. At the end of each year, the 5-6 class puts on a production of Shakespeare. Last year, we did A Midsummer's Night Dream. It was amazing. We practice and then perform it to our school and community. Graduation happens shortly after the Shakespeare performance and is something that is especially important in our school since we have been a community environment of only 55 students. Miss Rumphius is a favorite book of our principal, Christina. Each year before graduation, Christina reads it to the 5-6 class. Miss Rumphius travels to faraway places, and when she comes home to live by the sea, she plants some lupins. The next year, the lupins have spread afar, so she starts planting them everywhere. The next spring, all you can see are lupins. The graduates each prepare a lupin to share at their graduation, a song, a poem, a demonstration, some artwork, something important to them to share with their families and the community to make the world more beautiful. Rachel?
And that concludes this evening's program. This is Rachel Nash Benson, Zach Mason, and Lila Slillman Utterback signing off for Weybridge News. I hope you'll join us again for some more news about Weybridge in the coming year. Good evening, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Do you mind see if there's any questions here that you might be able to answer? Anybody want to pose any questions to our student reporters? Lorraine?
I just wondered what grades you are all in.
I'm in 6th grade. I'm in 5th grade. I'm also in 5th grade.
And I was also wondering how you were chosen. Did you volunteer or were you drafted?
Yeah, we volunteer for this.
Thank you, it was great.
Yes, Mary.
Yeah, who wrote the wonderful narrative? It was very informative.
Well, all of us, we picked something about the day that we wanted to talk about, and then we told Christina what we wanted to say, and then Lila wrote the whole thing, and we retyped it up, and yeah, so it was just we just kind of chose the different things that we did.
Very well done. Thank you.
Yes, Peg.
How did you come out in the junior Ironman contest?
Well, we are not 6th grade. Well,
yeah.
last year's, because last year's.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, so
We have a great time every year.
Anyone else? Well, thank you again. That was a great presentation. We love hearing from the students in the schools that we visit. This was very informative for us to sort of see what goes on at your school. I really appreciate it. You're welcome to stay for our wonderful school board meeting, but we certainly understand that you must have some homework to do and some dinner to eat. So you're more than welcome to go about your business. Thank you again. All right, so we all have in our board pack the minutes from September 17th. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Lorraine moved it. Second, please.
Second.
Mary, second. Anybody want to make any changes, corrections?
Was it Mary that said second or was
I said second.
Yeah, Mary.
Peg was here, wasn't she? I was here.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. Yeah, one thing that
We're going to add you back in. I think we had perfect attendance. Right?
Do I get a
I think we crowned. At the end of the
we
year.
were fully attended.
Crown. Oh, absolutely.
And tonight we're missing Chip, just to be aware.
Okay.
Yes, Lorraine.
A
We're
very,
close.
very minor
No,
correction.
17th.
When you were discussing my thoughts about the executive committee, you looked at me off the end of Lorraine, but I think that's very minor. But it needs to be corrected for,
We're far too formal to just go with first names.
oh no, both names are available.
Hearing nothing more, all those in favor of approving the minutes of September 17th, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And I think we were all here, so I doubt there are any abstentions. Excellent. Who's got the bills?
I have bills. Let's see, on September 24th, Chip and I read bills. General fund was $113,192.87, plus payroll at $1,044,138.19, for a total of $1,158,131.06. In addition, there was the MUHS food service for $8,707.02, the Jilton Fund for $1,290, and Mary Hogan food service for $5,313.06. And then today I read the bills. General Fund, $209,737.72, plus a payroll of $278,001.91, for a total of $487,739.63. I move to approve the bills.
A motion to approve the bills?
Second.
Discussion?
Were you the only one that read
I was the only one
bills
who read
today?
the bills today.
So normally we require 2 people, so can we actually approve those bills or just,
Is that in policy, Perry?
I don't remember that.
I believe we are supposed to have 2 people reading the bills.
We've had one in the past. I mean,
We
our
have.
past practice, we have had single people reading the bills.
We
I
have?
think it's been practiced, but I thought last year we had the same situation where there was one time where
Yeah.
only one person was.
Excuse me, there was one time this summer, and then I came in on Tuesday.
Well, right, we could approve them subject to a second person reviewing them,
Oh.
but normally we have.
Is that a friendly amendment to the motion?
Yes.
So we have a friendly amendment, well, actually, will you accept that as a friendly
I
amendment?
accept that as a friendly amendment.
All right. So we have a motion to approve the bills as read with an amendment saying condition on the second set of bills being reviewed by a second person this week. That good enough? Okay, great.
Well, it has to be tomorrow.
No, tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'd be happy to as well. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And we have paid the bills conditionally. Mayor, if you run into trouble, just give me a call. I think I can sneak in there.
Victoria? Yes.
All
Did you
right.
get all those numbers?
Our next item on the agenda is the report of the superintendent, which we received in written form with news about all the schools. Are there any questions anybody would like to ask? Lorraine?
I forget, I'm trying to find them. Somebody, and I think it was Mom, was talking about, they mentioned Lego, but I thought, are they actually referring to Legos, or is that an acronym for something, or?
Can you?
Well, I'll have to find it. And then I also had another question, but let me find that one first. If anyone else has questions, they can ask.
Anyone else?
Probably, oh, okay, I guess I can find that.
Oh, they do, actually, they are using Legos in the language and literature classes.
Oh, okay,
right
so they
now.
actually
Yeah,
were
they are.
talking about
Yeah.
Legos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I also had a question, and I think it was from the high school. I can ask you after, Peter.
Is
I'll
it
find
that, about that great person at the front door?
No, it definitely was not about that.
I will say I've been in twice during the day, and the man at the front door is in fact very friendly, very nice.
Okay, what the heck was it? Well, if I find it, I'll
Okay.
ask later.
Okay.
I'll hold it up.
Anyone else? All right. Please do take the time to read those reports. There's a nice little bit about every school in there. It's a good way to keep track of things. All right, continuing along, we have a discussion of our FY20 budget development and timeline. We've got two documents here. One from Brittany about kind of where things stand and where we're headed, and then the other really kind of spells out the timeline as we go along.
So, okay. We met with, at our last meeting, we met with the Finance Committee and really began the process of talking about the development of this year's budget. We reviewed this timeline, which we included here as well, and started to really just try to map out an overview of how we're going to work together this year. I didn't know whether the two Finance Committee members that are here wanted to talk a little bit about the meeting and kind of where we are. I can also go through some of this information as well.
I wouldn't mind hearing from either of you. Your leader's not here,
Well, so what we talked about was the process right now is an information gathering process, because we don't have any information from the state about what our numbers are. So the only thing that we can really gather is what our expenses, contract information, all that sort of thing. And with that in mind, we asked that it be prepared, or that we specifically spell out some of the things that we thought we would realize some savings this year, such as the offering of the incentive last year created a very large class of new people coming in. And what was the financial impact of that? Because when you have 80% of your costs are associated with personnel, and to have that kind of massive change in personnel, we wanted to see what that impact was on our budget, and that was why you got this memo from Brittany with that impact and about wages and benefits, which is a huge part of our budget, and how that was going to. So that's kind of where we stand right now. We can't do anything until we get numbers from the state about equalized pupil and all that sort of thing, and that will come until later in the process. So right now, what we're doing is getting our ducks in a row to make sure the parts of the budget that we know are coming are pretty clearly laid out for everyone. And that was kind of the gist of the meeting, is what can we do now before we start getting numbers from the state? Because the last time we went through this process, it seemed like it kept changing because all of this stuff was happening in public, which we said might not be such a good idea to start bandying numbers around just to collect information at this point, rather than say, this is going to be the impact, or these are going to be the personnel costs, or because that created a lot of anxiety, both among the staff and in the community. And so we said, let's back off of that a little bit and do a little less of that public hand wringing until we actually get some numbers that we can use. So that was our thinking during that meeting. I think that kind of, that was the gist of what I got without getting into specifics. So.
Yep, no, I'd say that's, you covered it.
So reviewing just some of the numbers on the memo, as Brittany stated here, roughly $650,000 we believe in savings. That's from those 26 teachers that retired and rehiring teachers at a lower wage. We did build some of that into this year's budget, but by the time we approved the budget, we were still ahead of the deadline for early retirement. So that's why we weren't able to count. I think it was roughly half of the teachers that did retire. We know, we expect that equalized pupil will be down this year. We're not positive. The impact from the high school class, that large high school class that graduated, half of that will impact us. Equalized pupil, if you don't recall, is a 2-year average from this year in October backwards. It also weights every student differently. I've talked to every business manager I've ever met about is there a way to figure out equalized people ahead of time, because that's really, as Steve was mentioning, that's the big number that sets up our entire budget. And really, because of the weighting factors involved in equalized people for secondary versus primary and other category designations, it's near impossible to figure out exactly where it's going to land. So we think it might be a little bit lower. We don't actually know exactly what the impact is. So I think, again, to echo what Steve said, we don't want to overreact without having information at hand. So one of the changes I think that we talked about with the Finance Committee that we're looking to do this year is to not try to get drafts out without real knowledge of what the numbers are. I think our experience last year in doing that was we put out an initial draft before we got our equalized pupil number. We and the community at large reacted to this draft as this is our reality for FY19, and then that dramatically changed. And because it changed so significantly, it was, I think, pretty hard. It was a barrier to really, I think, building a consistent budget together. It created this kind of reality that wasn't real, a non-reality. So our plan, as the timeline states, is to have the first draft by the 17th, by that meeting.
December.
Yeah. So that is later. Typically, we've done, going way back, we used to do the central office budget. This was, of course, pre-unification. We used to do the central office budget around the end of September, early October. Then we would start rolling other things up with maybe a draft in November, a draft in December, a draft in January. We would get the numbers on December 15th, and then we would feverishly kind of work to redo things and change things. Given the scale of a $37 million budget, that process doesn't really work at all. There are too many moving parts. It's easier to do that kind of process in a smaller budget, like a single school budget. So those are the things that I think we talked about. We did discuss, and you can see it here on the budget timeline on 9/17, parameters for acceptable increase. We did talk about that with the Finance Committee, and I know that was something that they were going to bring here tonight to start a conversation with the board as a whole about what kind of direction the board wants to give us as we look at putting this budget together for that first draft on the 17th and thinking about what is a kind of a quote-unquote acceptable increase. Again, it's hard to say what that is and what the impact of that is because we don't have our equalized pupil number yet. For your information, one thing that we talked about last year that's really important for us to be looking at is the excess spending threshold. Because we reduced last year, we're not right up at the edge of that threshold. We are, roughly 7% increase budget-wise away from the excess spending threshold. And that's per equalized pupil. So again, that equalized pupil number is the number that is the most important. It's not budget to budget increases or decreases. So Steve and Victoria, I'm not sure if you wanted to talk at all about the parameters for acceptable increase, or if we want to continue talking about that at the next Finance Committee meeting.
I think that we haven't come to I wasn't sure if we were going to turn it to the board or if we were going to come up with our own, what we think the parameters should be and then bring that to the board. If that's the case, we have not done that yet.
Yeah.
It's scheduled for the next committee meeting. But if you think that it would be helpful to hear from others on the board first, Steve, I'm looking at you, I can't see you on there. We could open that question up now.
I think one of the things, in the Finance Committee, we don't make that decision. The board has to make that decision. And so we need direction from you before we start telling the business manager, okay, bring us 0%, bring us a negative 2%, or positive 2%, or whatever the board decides. If the board as a body says, yeah, we're gonna have a 4% cut, that's very different than we want to keep it under 2% increase. So I think what we're looking for is a general direction right now. Level funding, slight increase, slight decrease. If you look at the capital budget that we're going to be talking about later, that's a huge, that's an ask of $3 million, which is, yeah, I'm sure we got 700,000 out there, but that's not going to cover $3 million. So what direction does the board want to go? And then we can't make that decision on finance committee. We just need to know where to go so that we can do the numbers in the background to see how that comes out. So I don't think it's inappropriate for the board to say how they're feeling right now, whether we can level fund or go up a bit or go down a bit. Well, the thing that Peter was talking about, being 7% away from the threshold, is a good thing. And we've been much, much closer in many other years. And so, just watching the budget cycle, yeah, I think that we're better staying that far away from that, because that's a very significant tax implication when we get that penalty. And being more comfortable, being on the more comfortable side of that is better than being right up against it like we have been. So I wouldn't recommend too much of an increase.
So I'm going to guess that the board is not tonight in a position to give any parameters. I think in part one thing we lack is sort of a common set of terms, so that when we talk about a 2% increase, what are we increasing 2%? Per pupil spending? Are we increasing the bottom line 2%? Are we increasing taxes 2%? We probably need to get comfortable with what it is we want to frame the conversation in. Of course, we can't even talk about taxes until much later because, and I think this is one of the concerns we have with moving too quickly, is because we might say, gee, we'd like to see this, but if the tax increase is gigantic as a result, well, then we go back to the drawing board. So I think maybe we should all think about this between now and our meeting in 2 weeks, and but maybe think about it not in terms of hard percent numbers, but in terms of what it is we feel is sort of appropriate and sized correctly or whatever in terms of our programming and what we offer and what it is we're willing to think about programmatically, facilities, whatever wise between now and then. And we may say, well, we'd like first to see a budget that sort of, if we're not going to see a dramatic change in anything, student count or whatever, then we'd like to take a look at a bottom line and with a I don't know. Anyway, just let's think about how we want to frame the conversation before we have the conversation. And maybe I'll shoot out an email to folks between now and then to talk about, okay, a percentage increase when you talk about whether it's the bottom line, and when we'll find out what the ripple effects of that will be in the future. Unless anybody's really, yes.
So a couple things. One,
yeah, I don't want to hamstring you guys for.
No, you're not. A couple things I just wanted to provide for context going into this budget season. One, to answer your question, I think we're talking about equalized pupil in terms of a percentage, because that's how we're recognized. That's the statute requires us to now put that in our warning. That really is the logical, I think, definition of when we're talking about an increase, is to use equalized pupil. We're right in the middle. We talked about this at the Finance Committee as well. We're right in the middle of the facilities master plan, which is a pretty big plan with potentially far-reaching impacts. And one of the things that we're working on right now, coming out of a year last year where I think we saw a fair bit of change in our budget. As I look across the district, my sense of the needs for the district are to not create too much change going into next year. We're going to be halfway through the master plan at that point. We're going to be engaging the community. We're doing a lot of work right now, so we're not in a lull right now. We're actually in a really kind of building and development mode. And as I think about the work that all of our entire ACSD community is doing, I think it's not a year to make drastic changes, but to try to sustain as we take the time to look ahead. One of the challenges of talking about a percentage increase, and I think we realize this, that when the board gives us direction, you don't know and we don't know yet when we say 3% or 0% or 7%, we don't really know what that means yet. We know what that means on December 15th when we get the equalized pupil. So really, I think in some ways, giving us at least a sense of direction is important, because otherwise we're kind of going by gut, and it would be good to, we need to know where the board kind of wants us to move. But I think we'll come back to this on December 17th. That's where we'll really be able to see, a 3% based on our equalized pupil number could mean 1,000 different things. Because without that number, we can't know what that increase is, because that's the barometer. So those are just things that I think I wanted to kind of add to the discussion.
Right. If we sort of hold on this until our next meeting, is that putting you too far behind the 8 ball with your timing?
I don't think so, no. Brittany is soon to depart.
Yeah. I sort of went out there on my own and guessed how people were feeling, and so if people disagree with that, let me know. If you're chomping at the bit to have a conversation about it tonight. Finance committee people, does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big issues that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to forget the STA, the way they sprung that surprise on us. I mean, that was $1 million hole over the next couple of years. And I think there have been conversations about other things like that, plus the massive facilities stuff that's later in the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think we can wait too much longer.
No. Well, when I was sitting here hearing the conversation, I was thinking we should wait until October.
Yeah.
But then I realized that we were in October.
It's good to have the bug in your ear, because you know that this question is going to come up again in 2 weeks.
Right.
If you're not thinking about it, start thinking about it.
Yeah.
And pull your constituents, or talk to your tax advisor, look at your crystal ball, whatever you want to do to be prepared for that discussion. It's coming in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yes, Mary.
Can I make a request? Can we get some kind of review of the taxes for each of the towns in terms of, I don't even know what you call it, but sort of the rate number, or what do you call it when they're...
I'm not, the CLA?
Yeah, the CLA.
You want to know what the CLA is for each
Yeah.
town?
Yeah, and then their tax rate, just so we have a,
From last year?
from last year, just.
So it is in the budget book that was presented. It's in the budget book.
Oh, it is in the budget book.
Yeah, that we
Okay.
presented for last
From
year.
the last
All right, then
budget
if I have
cycle.
that, that's fine.
For this, yeah.
So you,
If it's in the budget book, then I can find it.
Yeah.
I can send you a link.
Is there other information that we can utilize or look at in the next 2 weeks? So there's the information that Brittany shared that may or may not indicate how the finances are heading based on this year. We have last year's budget, but is there something else that you're all looking at that we could?
Well, the three things that we discussed, those are the 3 big ticket items. What were the personnel costs? What was the impact of that? And that was why we requested this information from Brittany, which she put together for us. The second thing is that we're in a negotiating year, but even with a contract, teachers tend to be pretty reasonable, and we know a ballpark at least. It's not like they're going to come in and say 15% we're going to strike. So we kind of have that. That's a big thing. And then the last thing was the facilities stuff. So that's what we said when we were trying to get the big buckets out there. What are those? And these 2 reports, the one from Brittany and the one from the facilities people, those are 2 of the big buckets, so that you can at least see what's going on there. But beyond that, those are the biggest piece, or the biggest blocks that we're trying to put in place, so that you have some more information to see where we should be going with this.
Our This 16.9 for equalized per pupil spending, is that taking into account sort of where the budget is today as opposed to the budget that was, the number that was passed?
No, that number doesn't, that doesn't change.
Okay,
It's based on the budget, not where we're projecting that we're
All right.
we actually are.
all right, thank you.
And they have talked about moving, I mean, pretty much every legislative session, they talk about changing from a spending threshold to another way to suppress spending. And last year, and Peter, you've been a part of some of those conversations.
Coming up with all kinds of new ideas this year.
Yeah, new ideas, and then new ideas next year. I don't know of anything right now going into this legislative session that we need to be thinking about. At this time last year, the governor had already sent out his staffers across the state to send a message of level funding. That hasn't happened this year. I don't know if, Peter, you have any insight? I have not heard from any of the organizations I'm connected to anything from the state that would impact how we're currently thinking about the budget. And probably, unfortunately, we're going to be fighting in February or March after we've already passed the budget. It's completely nonsensical.
It's an election year, so that's why you're not hearing much.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I guess in the same vein, why don't we move along to talk a little bit about where we are with the facilities report.
Going to hand that over to Bruce.
Okay. I didn't bring any slides, but you all have the report that I produced?
Yes.
Okay. I guess rather than repeat everything, do you have any questions about it?
So is this, when we look at these numbers of what's needed, high priority items of $2.7 million, is that largely based on the school dude report?
It is largely based on the school dude report. And it might be, it's a little bit misleading in that there might be things in the buildings that we feel is a high priority that they haven't listed as a high priority. For an example, at high school, we have some drainage pipes underneath the floor in the kitchen that have deteriorated. And we've had to abandon those lines to rearrange equipment. So for me, that's a pretty high priority because it's impacted how the kitchen functions. That doesn't get listed as a high priority in that school dude report. However, all branch wiring gets listed as a high priority just because of its age. Well, we can have an electrician go through and check panels, which there's some expense to, but we could have it recertified as, good. And that would dramatically change the cost that they put in that report. So it's not cut and dry that we need $3 million of repairs right away, or things are going to fall apart.
Bruce, could you talk a bit about just the 2.7 number, just going kind of school by school to give the board a sense of some of those priorities? And, as you're saying, like some of them are not immediate needs tomorrow, but just contextualizing the fire system, roof, electrical.
Absolutely. Just pull that up.
I've got a paper copy here.
Oh, you have a paper copy?
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't print that out. Okay, so starting with report. Fire system, that's a pretty hard number as far as we need to replace the fire alarm system there. It's outdated. We can have it inspected and recertified each year. However, if we want to make any changes, we'd have to replace the whole system. And really, it's recommended that we change it. We do have some issues with it, but it's, we can keep putting Band-Aids on it and live along until we absolutely have to change it. But that's a fairly real number. The roof is, we should take care of that. When you get to the electrical, and this is going to hold true in all of these buildings, the numbers are skewed because it just means that they're so outdated, they need to be certified by an electrician that they're still safe. Many of them are going to be fine. And when we go through and look at each individual system, I'm sure we'll identify some things that need to get repaired, but it's not going to be, $600,000 worth of electrical repairs at Mary Hogan School. It'll be a much different number than that. And like Bridport School, it's hard to guess because I don't know what they'll uncover when they check each system. But I would feel confident in saying it'd be half of that number. Half of $159,660. I can't imagine we uncover anything a greater problem than that. So that immediately cuts the end number in half.
Got a question
Can I
over
ask
here.
a question on that? So take Bridport, for example. We went in and spent half of that number to get it to the point where it could be certified. Then, if we had to go back, say then we were doing work in one of those buildings and needed to upgrade the system, when you're saying that you do the work, are you upgrading pieces of it so that then when you go back in, the number is half again, or are you replacing everything so that the number is the full price?
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I think so. So
Your Band-Aid now is a Band-Aid.
yes.
Stay with us, or do we have to?
The Band-Aid, so to go in and recertify things, we would then reset basically we're resetting the clock on that system. And every system has a lifespan.
Right.
And so for electrical, I think electrical is 20 years. So we go through and we recertify everything, take care of any, out of code issues. We should be good for 20 years on the electrical system.
Okay. So it's not a situation where you get the recertification, then you find yourself 3 years down the road, you got to replace the whole thing again.
No. It would. These prices are to replace or repair the system to a point where it would be considered new.
So
Want to keep going down the schools?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, these numbers are, we could go back into the school duty report and pull out specific items, because that's where these numbers come from, with the exception of the Weybridge roof. They had a much lower number in there, but upon inspecting the roof this fall, this summer, trying to get ready to paint the roof, we discovered some problems. So that's actually a number that I inflated because there's more of an issue there than what was in the school duty report. But the rest of these are all from the report. So I don't know if it makes sense for me just to read off the numbers or...
No, that's okay.
And there was a piece in the report where you said that these numbers were taken from a 2016?
So, 2015, so the report generated in 2017. The database for construction that they used was actually a 2015 database for Northeast construction. And so that's how they based pricing in the report. Because they have to use some kind of standardized system. In determining what systems needed to be replaced, most of it is based on the age of the system. And so the numbers are going to be artificially low since we're using 3 or 4 year old figures for construction. And especially like looking at things this year, construction data has changed significantly. I think in this school dude report, they said you could, replace the high school for, it was under $100 million. It was just somewhere like $64 million or something. And just by going on square footage, there's no way you could replace it for that price. It's going to be over $100 million if you wanted to build a new high school the size of Middlebury High School.
So we can't do that then?
Yeah, let's not do that.
I wouldn't stand out front and suggest that.
So I guess these numbers are just sort of numbers as guideposts. They aren't hard and fast.
Right, that.
But it does sort of tell you, these are the things that we need to dig in and look at in the next year. And they may not need to be replaced, we may be able to just certify them for another year, which means it wouldn't be $100,000, it might be $10,000.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is, I think this whole report is just kind of meant to be a warning that, hey, you need to take a closer look at these systems.
Yeah.
And I think historically, we've waited, till things break, or we've waited a bit longer than probably we should have. One thing we're realizing as we look at our budget is we don't have a lot built into our budget to take care of some of these larger needs. So we're going to be forced into a position at some point of either taking out a bond or increasing our budget to be able to take care of some of these things. That's happened differently in different buildings over the last decades. The high school traditionally had $500,000 at the end of the year and used that primarily for capital spending. Other schools have done other things. Some have debt from new roof, things like that. It's something that we're going to have to be thinking about, and we're realizing as we have now pared down the budget, we're not going to be having the same kinds of fund balances that we've had in the past and that we had last year that we discussed. So it's something that we're going to be working with the Finance Committee and with the board as a whole this year and looking ahead to parse through all these numbers to figure out what's really necessary. And then, of course, the facilities master planning process, we're going to be looking at all of these numbers across all of our schools to try to make sense, as a community, try to make sense of everything to make plans kind of short and long term in regards to all of our buildings.
What was the line item in the budget for capital expenses?
Well, what's your total budget?
For the capital fund or in the?
No, it's general fund.
If you move on, I can get you that.
Okay.
All right, it's all right.
It's fairly low.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
like
that.
300,000, I think, that we put in the regular budget for these expenses.
We don't have a line, we have a repair and maintenance line, but it doesn't include anything out of this facility report. So these are more capital type expenses.
I thought we did have a line.
We haven't budgeted anything traditionally for that.
All right. Yes, Mary?
I just wanted to check on something. I know Marion had their roof replaced just a couple years ago. Or a major portion of it.
Major portion.
Okay.
Portion
This
of
isn't
it,
for
yes.
an entire roof, this is just for a portion of the roof?
Correct.
It was about 300,000.
It was $1 million with the
Which we thought was a huge number.
Yeah, but Mary Hogan, I just remember they replaced a significant portion of it, so I was surprised it needs to be done again. Are we buying the best materials so that they last long enough, or are we trying to cut costs by buying cheaper materials?
I wasn't involved in the previous roof project at Mary Hogan.
Yeah.
I know when we replaced the roof at the middle school, we bought the best materials.
With a bond.
With a bond, yes.
Yeah.
Bond. Any other questions?
Any other questions, folks? Before we go? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I can send for the next meeting some further information about what's included right now in the general fund sort of capital budget.
I think that in the regular fund, as we were sort of whispering here, I think we had a $300,000 line item.
Yeah.
But as Bruce said, that was really to sort of do the stuff that you got to do
Right.
every year.
There's some that split up among the schools, so without summing them all right now.
Yeah.
But I can get you that.
I mean, ostensibly, we took all of the maintenance lines across all of our schools and combined them. So one thing we haven't yet done is look at what is the general operating cost for 9 buildings and the upkeep of all of the different factors involved in the school day report, and then come up with a number. So that is work that we need to do to be planning thoughtfully so we're not in a reactive mode every year.
Bruce, are all of our schools that can be on natural gas now?
Yes. Yeah, everybody has access to it is on.
All right, well, moving right along, and in the same theme, just an update on the facilities master planning process. I don't know if you were going to speak to that or if we even have an update at this point. Jen, did you have?
I can give somewhat of an update. We met our communications group and our process group of the steering committee twice since we last had our board meeting. And wait, maybe it's just once. I can't remember.
That'd be pretty aggressive because we just met 2 weeks ago.
I think we did, because we did. We met like the day after and then we met Friday, right?
Twice.
So yeah.
7 p.m.
We are pretty aggressive. We are not
There is a lot to do right now.
There is a lot. And we're meeting at 7 in the morning, in case
Yeah.
anybody was curious. So at our last meeting, we were really trying to fine tune and finalize process and time frame. But I've been super busy at work. I didn't follow up with Sharon on dates. I was supposed to have received the final 2 to 3 dates for forums to share with you tonight and then bring them back to the committee, and I didn't get those dates. But I have rough dates and just kind of wanted to run those by you. So based on our meeting, we talked about an evening meeting at Mom's, possibly November 3rd, and then a Saturday morning meeting at MUHS, possibly the 8th of November. Do those sound but those are opposite. So I'm looking at my calendar right now. November 3rd is the Saturday.
Right.
And the 8th is
Thursday.
And the reason being, we're talking about maybe the 10th, the Saturday the 10th, as the Saturday meeting, and apparently I had actually mentioned it, not that I know much about it, but I was thinking maybe hunting season might be starting around then, and then Leonard found out that yes, that's the opening day of hunting season.
The 10th.
Yeah. So we didn't want to interrupt that or send a message that we were trying to exclude anybody. The 3rd could quite possibly be excluding somebody as well. So that's kind of why we wanted to run at least those 2 dates by you to see if those rang any alarms in your heads of things to stay away from, and or like all of you were going away that weekend or something.
We're leaving you.
You haven't been invited.
If I would just sleep, because it's fine. I'm fine with that. High school.
What's
Sharon
that?
was checking with the schools on those dates, so none of that ran as an alarm for those types of reasons. But we could check again to make sure about that. That's a good point. I mean, I don't know, I guess it would just impede high school students from coming necessarily, because I think, but also we wouldn't want to be in the high school for those events, but I think we're leaning toward the middle school anyway. We just think that the space might be a little bit better. The cafeteria at the high school is fine, it's just that there might be some busyness and that might interrupt the activity that's happening there and also be distracting to the meeting. And it was suggested to perhaps meet in the common area, but that hallway's kind of long and narrow, and that might also not feel welcoming. So it seemed like the middle school area might have a better layout. So,
Well, I think the catch on the 10th is a good one.
thanks.
But if I'm not hearing anybody have any big catches for the 3rd and the 8th, I personally have a conflict, but that's fine. They can go on without me. Just on the 3rd, I'll be away.
And there may be a 3rd date. They're hoping to have 3 dates.
Great.
Kind of in between the 7th and 15th range. But at 6:15 remembered that I hadn't heard from Sharon yet, and wrote to her. Clearly, she was doing better things than reading emails from me, so.
So will we be able to discuss, so our next board meeting is on the 15th.
Yep.
And will we be able to discuss then, or will we need another meeting to sort of discuss what would be the board's role in these public forums?
Let me look at my.
We've got a 5 Monday, October.
Yeah, that'll be great, because the full facilities master plan meets October 10th.
Okay,
And at that point, that steering committee will, that's the goal, is to this is 90% done.
okay.
And there's just a few, last minute things to kind of finalize after that. But that's the last meeting of that full group before the first forums, the first community forums. So, and that's the Wednesday before our meeting. So that sounds like that would really work. In the meantime, the communication committee is trying to finalize a postcard to send out to all taxpayers with these dates, if we can ever finalize the dates. And also putting together, probably leaning toward a threefold handout with some information similar to our planning document, but in a broken down form, and stressing how people can get engaged. Perhaps sending those home with schools and maybe putting them in town offices and in hot spots like that. Oh, so our committee was supposed to look for, or give us some ideas on hotspots, but if any of you have ideas of where those types of flyers should go in your towns, feel free to let me know, and I can pass it along to the steering committee as well.
I don't know if does it violate our distribution policy if they send it home in backpacks?
No?
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 School materials.
Totally okay, all right, totally okay.
We can do that.
We revised that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, want to make sure it was in keeping with our revision.
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll hear back more on the 15th, get a clearer idea of the board's role, and we might even want to talk about a brief meeting on the 29th or something, just to sort of, if we are playing a pivotal role in these events, to have a better understanding of what we want to do and maybe practice a little and
Sure. I can just as far as things are leaning right now,
Yeah.
it would really just be being present and attending and caring and hearing.
Right.
In that it really would be the steering committee to be more in that facilitator role in helping guide the guiding questions, whether it's all of our 7 or 8 guiding questions, or if it's more 3 broad questions to kind of spark conversation with the more detailed guiding questions sort of in the background. So that's, if
Great.
that sounds
great.
And if I might, because there was some community conversation about it earlier, just to kind of reiterate to the community that we are gearing up with this master planning process. We're super excited, and the thought about blurring the community lines and any of the thoughts that you or others that might be having about how this could all work better now that we're one unified district. This is absolutely the opportunity to come and talk about those ideas and share those ideas and ask questions and learn more about the facilities report that we just briefly talked about, but there's a lot more data behind that. And so the idea will be that there's going to be a brief presentation of that data. There's also some information available already online. And trifold, that's the word I was looking for when I was holding my hands. Trifold brochure will be coming out soon-ish with some more information. And so the idea is to have a series of 3 sort of informational, sharing, and gathering meetings now to kind of get a sense, and then we would, as a board and steering committee, work on kind of compiling that information based on what we see in the data, what we're hearing from the community, and then come back to the community after the budget process is done, I hope, so that it doesn't kind of get muddled in between that. So like February, March, when the budget process is kind of finalized, we'll come back and do some more community forums with, what do you think? This is what we thought we heard. Are we on the right track, or are we totally off base? And to try to then wrap things up before the end of the academic year, going back to the drawing board if necessary.
Thank
So,
you.
does that make sense?
Great.
Would it be possible for you to do that presentation at town meeting day or something?
Town meeting day had come up as an option for sharing more information on our second. Now, town meeting day has mixed messages, right? There's lots of towns, so whether it's we share in each of our town meetings, which is difficult and confusing, or if it's just sort of one of our school, I don't know how that all would work as far as multiple town meeting day. We could certainly have information out. I'm just not sure about the representation there. Right.
Right, because they all happen on the same day.
Most of them do, and that's the challenge with the budget information and all of that. So, but it's something that certainly came up as a place to at least share the process and share the information that this is happening, and maybe have some of those, if we have a draft report, can be shared, and then more information about the next round of forums.
Well, rather than a presentation, perhaps some sort of printed information
Yeah.
to be distributed that day?
An update, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, is that longer than you expected?
No, that was great. I mean, it's pretty much one of the most important things we're going to be doing, so all the time it needs.
We're full steam ahead, working hard.
Next on our agenda, a couple just pieces of small business here. Every year in October is the VHI and VSBIT annual meetings. So these are the insurance trusts. Our health insurance for our employees, and then the other insurances like disability and the other things are all done through the Vermont School Board's Insurance Trust and the Vermont Education Health Initiative. They are corporations or membership organizations. The membership needs to vote or they have to have an annual meeting. It's scheduled for the 19th. There's actually nothing on either agenda of either of these annual meetings that require action of the membership. I'm not planning on attending. What we usually do is just sign a proxy that allows business to go forth. And if everybody's comfortable with that and me signing the proxy, then I will go ahead and do it. Actually, why doesn't somebody move that we go ahead and authorize the chair to sign the proxies for VHI and VSBIT?
So moved.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, we have, how about a second, Lorraine? Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. When I read through that, it said like there are no voting items on the agenda, so what are we signing a proxy for?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Steve.
Okay.
I think sort of attendance.
Okay.
Maybe if something were to come up, but I had the same question. Why am I signing a proxy for something where there's no action? You got a technical answer for that?
They've asked for it. They've badgered us about it a couple times. So
Yeah.
they want it. I'm not sure how they're going to use it.
I think maybe
That's the
participation.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the question I have, because if there's nothing on the voting agenda, and then they say, surprise, we're going to do this, and we have your proxy. And
I don't think that would happen.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know that's not the assurance you're looking for.
But if we're going to sign.
But if it's not warned, I don't think they can take action. So we have a motion and a second to go ahead and sign the proxies for VHI and VSBIT annual meetings. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. I asked to have our next item on the agenda put on there just to remind everybody that as school board members, we are entitled to a massive $500 per year board stipend to cover your expenses for attending meetings and all of that. But then it requires, like any employer payroll relationship, going to the central office, filling out the forms, including an I-9, which means you need to come in there with your passport or birth certificate and driver's license in order to do the paperwork to make that happen. Has anybody done that yet?
Last year.
Didn't we
You did do it?
last year?
Well, some of
Do
us,
it again?
never got around to it.
Oh, I thought we
never got
very
You're stockpiling the stipend.
That's right, I'm looking for the big check.
You don't have to do them annually, though.
No, just once, yeah, so yes. So if you're new or somebody like me who never got around to it, that's the process.
Brittany's got some.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there will be a new MOU or memorandum of understanding every year, which essentially serves as a contract. But you only have to fill out your I-9 or W-4 once, but you should be receiving an MOU soon.
Okay.
That would come from our Human Resources Department.
And so that was my question. For those of us who haven't done the paperwork, Gail would be the person to
That's
see?
correct,
Okay.
yes.
Could those of us that have really, really bad memories and don't remember if we did the paperwork?
You can certainly email her.
Okay.
But she would be pursuing you. I suspect she will pursue you if you have not done the paperwork, because we can't pay you without it.
All right. We are up to other, and before we discuss going into executive session, Perry, a question for you. Did everybody get Perry's email today about with the link to a PBS little thing? Oh, good. All right. So anyway, watch it. It's a nice base level piece of understanding for IB. All right. So yes.
One more, you asked me if I knew the rules. I read them, and we're not following them, but in 2 weeks, we'll give you a full report.
The rules on
Governing what we do with budget reports at this meeting.
Okay.
Do we need to vote or not vote and so on? Everything I read is we're not even supposed to do it, so I will make sure I got it right.
Okay. All right.
Perry, I don't think I received your email.
I sent it to the board.
Are you not getting ACSD unified? Did you get my communique today?
My ACS, the last thing I got was from Jen last week.
So you're not in that group. You're not in that group email then? The listserv.
Well, you're missing out.
I will take care of that. I will take care of that. I will send you everything I've sent to anyone over the last week.
Outstanding.
Should be
I'll be
interesting.
looking forward to that.
But in the meantime, Perry, if you would just forward that to Mary individually at her email, that'd be great. All right, so we have a personnel issue to discuss in executive session. So thank you. We have a motion to go into executive session. We have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right, before we are in executive session, we'll take a 5-minute break, grab some refreshments,